Hey, everybody. Welcome to our panel on the future of the car show as part of the Internet Brands, Auto Classifieds, and Auto Communities virtual trade show. We have some great guests today, and I'm so excited to get a chance to talk to all of them. First of all, because I have missed car shows a ton. It's usually a big part of my summer, as I know it is for a lot of them. And for all of these guys here who are with us, it's a huge part of their summer season. But it's usually my little bitty escape from the office as well. I'm going to ask all of them to introduce themselves, and then we will jump into our discussion. Lance, since you are on my left corner, do you mind kicking it off?
Sure, happy to do so. I'm Lance
Perfect.
Miller with Carlisle Events. I'm the co-owner and get to put on parties and have car shows. So life doesn't get much better.
Perfect. Mike, why don't you follow up since you guys are...
I'm Mike Garland. I'm the public relations manager with Carlisle Events, and it's been a challenging but very fun summer, and it's nice to have it culminate in car show discussion versus the alternative.
Excellent, thank you. Also, I like your professional microphone setup there. So
yeah, I do another podcast on the side with some friends. And,
nice.
And I got tired of hearing about my poor audio from them, so I stepped up the game.
Excellent. Rob, please.
Yeah, I'm Rob O'Connor with the Circus Nationals Car Show.
And Al, last but not least.
Hey, thanks. My name's Al Liebmann. I'm with Racing Junk Internet Brands. I've been around the car show world taking pictures since about 2002, I think. Over 500,000 pictures. I'm involved with a couple other car shows, Dead Man's Curb in New Jersey, and doing work with Rob at Right Coast with Nitro Row.
Excellent, thank you. So Al first came to my attention when Internet Brands purchased Hot Rod Hotline. And at the time, Al was really considered our ambassador to the world, really. The record number of car shows that he attended, the number of people that he knew. I've never got anywhere with Al where he didn't know probably 60 people, and that was just the ones we ran into walking across any sort of parking lot or show floor. And we've been fortunate enough to also now have a professional relationship, as he also works for the Internet Brands Auto Classifieds, and he started wearing two hats today, both as well, really three almost, right? So you are here as as somebody who works in the field and works with people who are involved in it, who has worked with Frantic Ford Funny Car, who has done a number of show promotions, and then again is not happy unless he is out there either at a car show or displaying his own vehicle at one. So I know Al better than the rest of you guys, but I'm super excited to have you join both of us for this conversation. And really, I want to kick it out with the hard part. So let's get it over with before we move on to sunnier skies. So this last year, guys, what can you tell me about the last year for all of your events? Certainly, I know it's been a challenge. Anybody who'd like to start, or else I'm happy to call on you. Rob, why don't we start with you, because you have an individual event.
Yeah, we just do the one event, the Circus Nationals Car Show, every July. Unfortunately, everything hit just before our event. So we were forced to cancel to keep everybody safe, and we're just kind of hit the big reset button for next year. It's been a challenging year. A lot of people, everybody was obviously disappointed, but the consensus was everybody was disappointed, but everybody understands why we had to cancel. So we did it. In being that we're on a New York State facility, that was kind of a double whammy. So we just decided just to, regroup and start working on 2021 and just, do the best we can. We've been doing some podcasts and things like that, just to try to stay engaged with everybody. We did a couple small events. That's called the Circus Nationals Track Attack, which we started this year. Basically, we rent out a local road course, but 20 minutes north of Syracuse, and we just have a day. We get people down there, classic cars, also every car. We open it to every car, and we just have a great time at the track. Limited amount of cars, no spectators, so we stay within all the guidelines, but we still are able to get out and have a good time. There's a lot of car show, or a lot of cruises, I should say, around Syracuse. We attended a bunch of those, so that was still going on. even though we weren't able to hold the Circus Nationals car show. So it was nice to see some things continue on, and the car guys can still get together and do some things. You know, and you know, it wasn't a big event, but everybody was still able to hang out, and that's really what it's all about.
Absolutely. Lance or Mike, what can you guys speak of? Because obviously you do a series of events and you do several types as well. So how did everything affect you? How did the shutdowns and the different state regulation stuff affect what you guys were working on?
It was challenging to say the least, but I think that goes for every business, you know, not only ours. You know, this year in particular is one that I don't think any of us have had happen to us. So it was just extremely difficult, and you just roll with the challenges as they flow out. For us, you know, we kept pushing our schedule back, pushing it back to the point that we finally said, you know what, let's go for it. And we did just that. We tried to work with the state of Pennsylvania. Things didn't work out very well. We were filed an injunction right prior to our first event of the season, which made for a whole new challenge.
Yeah.
And it was extremely difficult, and quite frankly, the most stress I've ever had in my life enduring through business. So it was a very challenging year. Fortunately, we were able to work it out behind closed doors, and you know, we were able to move forward. So we're very fortunate. So I can't complain too much. Unfortunately, no matter what you do on many of the businesses, as we all know, or you know, you can work up to 25%, 50%, whatever it may be. What I've found throughout the year is, you know, every business is going to be down no matter what. Just not every, but you know, if we're trying to have people come through gates and go to a car show, absolutely, it's entertainment. We're providing that entertainment for people to come in. We want to have the masses come in. However, you know, the challenge is there's people that sit at home, they don't want to go out, and I respect that. You know, so does my partner Bill. And you know, we did everything in our might to take all the precautions, you know, all the CDC guidelines, rules, regulations, apply them, and even go above and beyond. So I feel like we've done everything on our end to do it right and make the guests feel, you know, comfortable, along with the vendors as well. And things went very well, but of course you're down. I mean, no matter what, you're going to be down. So it doesn't matter if the government's telling you need to have 25% or 50, you're going to be down no matter what. So we were just fortunate to get the ball in motion, and we made it through our entire season. So we're very fortunate, and you know, we don't take that for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that you guys, like I said, I knew that it had been a super challenging year for you guys on multiple levels as a result. Al, I'm going to throw this to you as a participant, as an attendee. What did you and the people you know, how did you guys, I hate to use the word pivot, it's so overused, but it's really true. We're probably going to talk about this a lot during this conversation, like how people responded to the limitations. But what did you do when it was clear that the shows weren't going to be able to keep functioning? I know you guys did some cruises, and unsurprisingly, you were at the forefront of saying, like, okay, if we can't do this, we're going to do something else, which is sort of your nature. But can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So the way I've looked at this is I've attended a lot of local car shows, probably in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, probably starting since March or April. But a lot of the shows that we were going to go to were canceled. So they opted to do some kind of car cruise. Well, they did a car cruise in the middle of April, in the middle of the pandemic. Everybody met at the local hooligans, and they had over 350 cars. It was a 7-mile long parade of cars over 35 miles. So we've noticed that was a big surge over the summer. Seeing now and going into the fall, there's a lot of shows coming up in New York and New Jersey. They're not large ones or small ones, but more people are finally getting out. Yes, we all know about the social distancing, got to wear the mask, all precautions, whatever, which is great. We had an event, I was started to get together with Joe Morrison. We did an event called Thunder in the Park. It was for Right to Breathe, the charity Joe Morrison's involved with. He came to me literally 30 days, middle of August, to see if we can do something on Labor Day weekend on that Saturday, which is usually the same weekend that we do Dead Man's Curve, Wild Weekend. And that's where I do what I call Nitro Alley with that. So the reason we came to this, because we had nothing else going. Well, in a matter of 30 days, we got together and I got a bunch of funny cars and dragsters. We had over 585 people in the facility, which were allowed 500 maximum time, about 320 vehicles, cars coming in, cars coming out, dragsters, funny cars, whatever. It was a great day. We raised $10,000 for charity. So it was proven that people want to come out to shows. They will pay the extra money this year. We've noticed this more than anything. If you tell somebody $25, $30, they haven't gone anywhere. They haven't got any car shows. They saved literally hundreds of dollars. Some guys even thousands of dollars not going out to shows. So we see that, again, the season's winding down, especially in New York, New Jersey. It's getting a little cold. There's still, 4 or 5 more shows coming up. I think the biggest thing is people want a change in a car show, and we've proven it with Dead Man's Curve, with Thunder Alley, and we're going to prove it also with Thunder Row at Syracuse. They want to see something different, and that's where we're here to make the charge.
I have such a silly logistics question. I'm thinking about like a one-off event versus the planned event, and I'm wondering if it makes any difference in terms of capacity, right? Obviously, the attendance is really dependent on how the states are, how people feel comfortable, like who your normal audience is. But I like for the Carlisle events, to determine capacity for you guys, did you have to go through a process and submit it to the state and like get that kind of approval? Or, I mean, I know that you talked about this a little bit, but I like how much of that has been something you've had to navigate, right? Like say like we normally get this many people, so we'll let this many people in. Like I'm not sure how that functions. Like it's easier with a racetrack because a racetrack is like, we can hold this many people in the stand, so we'll only let this many people in. But I'm wondering with, bodies, is it bodies, is it cars? Like how do you figure that out?
Mike, you just got back. You can hit that one.
Yeah. I might have gotten a great new microphone, but I still have the same old Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So
I feel you.
with us, obviously, we have 2 different aspects to what we do. We have the outdoor portion, which is the Fairgrounds itself, and then we have the Carlisle Expo Center, where we host our auctions at spring and fall, and then our summer sale. So in each instance, there is, would you agree, Lance, a fire marshal approved
right, of course,
capacity number, and then we work with the state. And I don't exactly know what Lance touched on, but we certainly worked with the state this year with regards to certain capacities and how we were able to go forward, and we did abide by that. So it was body count. It wasn't necessarily cars.
Okay.
And then we would do the compliance aspect with the masks and the suggested social distancing and things like that. So for us, it was about body count, not cars or vendors. Well, vendors, yes, but body count.
Right. I had an interesting conversation earlier last week in a panel on racing and sort of the future of that. And for that part of the industry, that part of the enthusiast industry, the pre-registration stuff has been a gift, right? Like having everything be contactless and they pre-register is great because they're certainly spectators are a big part of it, but the entrance, right, is where they really can figure out like their capacity and how they're going to make their money. And certainly, obviously, racetracks make money on attendance, but they're also making it on entrance fees. So I'm wondering how much of an effect that will have on you guys in the future, and like whether you're going to do contactless stuff, pre-registration. Like I think a lot of people are like, oh, we're just going to go to the car show, and certainly they might get tickets from O'Reilly's or but it's a little different. Like there's these subtle little differences between the sort of race promotion and car show promotion. And I don't want you guys to have to deal too much in these little logistics. I really want to talk high concepts, but I also like little logistics. So
I will say on our end, we really started to get into the pre-registration, both with tickets and show field and vending within the last 10 years. Okay. Online ticketing for us actually has been a big jump over the last, would you say 5 years, Lance? We had always been a cash at the door type of business. And we've been able to finally embrace technology. And as our customer base transitions to a more tech-friendly audience, and that's not to say that the ones that still come aren't, but there's definitely a divide. with some of our guests on technology and e-commerce and things like that. But we have been able to really wrap our arms around that and utilize it to our advantage, to the point that we do have some contactless touch points where you can just have a scanning system and scan a barcode, or you can purchase a package, which is a ticket and parking. So that's one less interaction with somebody because you already have your parking pass with you. We do gate and go for our show field registration. So again, we mail the info to you weeks in advance. You have it, sticker on your car before you even leave the house, and then you can roll right in and park.
That's spectacular. Rob, are you guys finding a similar?
Yeah, 100%. We've been doing online registrations and ticket sales for a number of years now. Again, the whole contactless thing. We were going to implement some more, even more robust contactless systems in place this year, but we didn't have to. But we had everything planned. We had everything planned to do it. Yeah. But yeah, we're ready to go next year with all that stuff as well. It just makes sense. If there's a silver lining in any of this, it really made us kind of analyze our systems to get people into gates and cars and vendors and everybody else. So we really streamlined our processes a little bit, preparing for 2020 if we were able to do the event. So I think, there may be a little bit of silver lining when all this happening, where we're able to embrace the technology a little bit more. And I think other people, spectators and vendors and car registrations are a little more inclined to do that now, just because of the contactless portion of it. So like I said, we were ready to go, and we'll be ready next year to implement whatever we need to implement to make the show possible.
Excellent. Al, as a spectator, how have you, and as a show, again, all of your hats. What's your take on that?
Well, they all brought up good points. We're seeing more and more now that people want to pre-register. They don't have a problem. I guess now some of the older people are learning more about Eventbrite and everything else. When we did show in New Jersey, Thunder in the Park, we did everything on Eventbrite. So we knew everybody coming in, everybody going out. I think that's a real way to go. And like Rob did mention, it definitely streamlined it. Talking with the guys on Dead Man's Curve, the same thing. They get a lot of pre-registrations ahead of time each year. This year, they noticed they didn't get any because they called the show off in time.
Right.
Again, in New Jersey, we only have 500 people. That was a maximum we can have, regardless of the size of the property. Where Rob's property is humongous, where Dead Man's Curve is really, really big, it's on 300 acres. How can you have an event with 500 people? So that was the biggest challenge that we had. And even some of these other smaller shows, these car shows, these cruises, these larger ones where there had X amount of people that had to limit the amount of cars coming in. And a lot of them did pre-registration, which is a good point.
Again, I don't want to get too into logistics, but I think it's because I've sort of a personal vested interest in this idea. There is a large portion of the car show fan and enthusiast who is older, who is less familiar with technology. And that is not to assume that because you're older, you're not capable of, downloading your pre-registration app or doing that. Like, certainly we know plenty of people who are great at that, but there definitely can be a limit to that familiarity, or even the willingness to embrace the familiarity, right? I think a lot of that has changed, but I remember going to the Street Ride Nationals and running into more people than I expected who were not that old, who were so thrilled that they did not even have a cell phone. You want to be like, how does anyone get a hold of you? Now, again, that was several years ago and things have changed rapidly in that field, but do you guys have systems in place to work with people? Like, I really do think that contactless entry is going to be the norm going forward for quite a while, for a lot of reasons. It helps you plan better. It is, it's an easy way to say, like, hey, we don't have to worry about this exchange of transmission and on that level right there. And it lets you guys do a whole bunch of other things that also you could do contact tracing, whether that means for actual disease stuff, but also just like, hey, this thing was happening and I want to reach out to these people for marketing, right? As somebody who does a lot of marketing in my job, it's a great way to, like, these people are already in my system. I know they like coming to events because they're here, they registered. What are the systems in place for helping people who are a little less comfortable with that still engage in it and not feel alienated? Because for so many people, this is such a huge part of their enthusiast experience, is going to the show. And certainly that, you wouldn't want that be a barrier to entry, right? Literally or physically, literally or theoretically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all I can say is, we're still going to do the same things that we used to do. It's just that we're going to offer the newer way to do it, and then anybody who wants to adapt to that can jump over to the contactless side. But we'll still have all the same, depending on what we're able to do, we'll still have all those systems in place. So, anybody can just walk up and register their car on site or buy a ticket on site. I mean, I don't think we'll ever get away from that.
Yeah,
It's just the nature of the event business, right? I mean,
totally. So you have to be able to take cash.
right, right. It's just the nature of the event business, and especially this type of event, where you don't have reserved seating like a concert or something
Right,
like that.
right.
It's just open admission. Just come on into the fairgrounds or where the facility wherever you're holding it. So I don't ever see that going away, and some people just aren't comfortable putting their credit card information on the
Totally.
computer, and I get it, and that's fine. And so we'll accommodate them whatever way we need. And to back up to your point about the online services, you're right. It is a great way to capture their information so we can reach out to them and let them know that an event is
Mhm.
rescheduled or canceled
Right,
or this procedure's in place for whatever reason.
totally.
So that's a great way to, obviously the marketing piece as well, but also communicating with them about the event. We can send out an email blast to say, hey, gate 7 is closed because of this, or a text or something like that. So there's certain advantages to that. And I think people, once they realize that we're able to do that, and they can get up to the minute information, I think more people will kind of transition over to that.
Excellent. Ah, John, welcome.
Hey, sorry that I'm late. We're having some high
No.
winds and my internet went down.
Oh my gosh, no worries. Well, we're so glad to have you join us. Can you introduce yourself to anyone who may not know you? Although I bet you know these guys.
I'm John Buck. It's good to see you guys. And I run the Grand National Roadster Show in the Sacramento Autorama here in California.
John, what we had been talking about largely was like how the year had gone for you. You guys were able to hold your event because they're at the beginning of the year. But then I know
Yeah,
planning.
we dodged the bullet.
Yeah. Yes. But I also know that it has affected next year's event that in terms of your planning.
Yeah.
So how are you guys accommodating that?
So we've actually pushed the Grand National Roadster Show, which is in January, into the May timeframe. And then we pushed the Autorama into April timeframe. And we're just kind of holding tight. Our governor has really put on a lot of restrictions, including Disneyland. They just made announcements they're not going to open Disneyland back up probably until June of next year.
Crazy. Wow. So we were really talking logistics, and I kind of want to move away from that, but I will just throw that at you really quickly, which is we've been talking a little bit about like pre-registration, contactless entry, and how shows are moving and migrating towards that. Parking. I certainly hope for the next time that parking can be on my phone next time I come to the Grand National Show. It is the bane of it's not ever the bane of my existence as a reporter. I'm able to park and go, but I have definitely shown up without my $20 and been real mad at myself. But just the way that those kind of things, and part of it is that because I feel like these are important parts of the future of the logistics of the car show. But how have you guys been changing in response to new technologies or to potential restrictions? Like what are some of the things that you guys have put in place? And this is a pretty natural segue for us to start talking about the future of the type of car shows that you guys host.
Yeah, we have we're kind of held steadfast to our traditional type event. So we're set up for. We are working on a new website. We're excited about that, and we are going to integrate into the registration process being online, which is new for us. We've always been, pen and paper application with old school pictures, and we want to get away from that.
That's pretty exciting. So I'd love to throw the concept out there. So there's sort of two components to the future of the car show, right? Like we have the next couple of years where things either settle into a new normal or they start to shift just a little bit. Things get a little bit more open, fingers crossed. We start to see a little bit more capacity. What do your events look like in the next year or two? What kind of changes do you guys see? What kind of accommodations? will there be a virtual component? Will there be podcasts? Will there be something I haven't even thought of? Will there be video, right? All of you guys have a little bit of all of this stuff. But what do you see as sort of more immediate changes, or things that you want to stay the same and retain because there is an essential part of the experience? So I'd love to hear from any of you guys.
Yeah, I mean, as far as we're not looking to reinvent the wheel here. I obviously with a pun intended, I guess. But classic car shows are classic car shows. People enjoy them because they've been going on. Especially the folks down at Carlisle and everybody else. And there's some really well established car shows across the country. Great National Roadster Show, and people like them because they're the same. Right? They like the consistency. So, at least from my end, I don't plan on changing anything. We've been doing this for 20 years now when my dad started this. And, we have a pretty successful formula. So I don't see any major changes. We're always looking for ways, and I'm sure everybody else is looking for ways to kind of stay relevant and keep new things coming into the event. But the overall format, it works. The classic car guys like classic things. So we're not gonna, make too many changes. Like the analogy I use is, when my dad started this business 20 years ago, he set this big freight liner going in the ocean, and it's heading in the right direction. It's slow and it's moving in the right direction. You might need a little course change here and there, but we're heading in the right direction. So, we're just, stay up with the times. The new technology we're talking about is online registrations, online ticketing, things like that, and ways to add to the show to keep the show relevant and to keep new people coming in to the show. Obviously there's been some change, in the 20 years that we've been doing the show, we've seen a lot of difference in the type of cars that are registered and the amount of those cars. When we first started 20 years ago, street rods, they were 75, probably 75 to 85% of our field. Now I bet you it's, back down to like 50% maybe, where it's street rods. And then I guess you call them muscle cars or customs would make up the other 50%. So, you have to keep moving forward. You have to keep moving that, moving the target to keep up with the times. So I don't see any major revamps, at least on my end.
Lance and Mike, since you guys do a series of events, any difference there or just sort of the same thing?
For us, exactly what Rob had said, it's important that they like the same flavor. We all like to go to a place and feel like we're at home. And that's what Carlisle is all about. Essentially it's a family that comes in and they enjoy it. They want to come back. The camaraderie of it all. That's what we're applying to every event that we do. This year in particular, which we will most likely carry over to next year as well. A lot of the times when we have mass gatherings, for instance, during our truck show, we have monster trucks crushing cars, that type of stuff we had to alleviate because we didn't want a bunch of people in one area.
Totally. A
quick story for you that was kind of funny this year. We had a high-low competition, which is obviously high trucks and then, of course, slam down trucks. So whichever one's the highest or lowest. Typically, we have 20, 30, maybe 50 people check out this fun event, which is really quite boring. I mean, you're measuring,
Right.
But some people love it, so we continue to do it. Well, this year we do it, and we didn't have the monster trucks. We didn't have a lot of the stuff where people would come together, and it was packed. I mean, the whole entire grandstand, we're all like, oh my gosh, what do we do? So we stopped them from going in the grandstand. Then all of a sudden, everybody came around, surrounded it. So it was like, we're all learning. We have to learn as we go and progress and try to do the best that we can. In fact, we got our hands slapped. Somebody had a video. We got a call from the mayor. We had this big Zoom conference call. Sat there, slapped our hand, and we told them, we said, we're sorry. We're learning how to do this.
We never guessed they would want to.
Exactly. Right. So it's frustrating, but at the same time, everybody has to understand we're trying to do the right thing. We're not trying to bring people together and make it worse.
Yeah.
And I think, calls and conferences like this are very good because we can all learn from one another.
Totally.
That was just one instance, but it was throughout the year. Another one, we had Chevrolet during our Corvette show that comes every single year. This year it was a mandate. They couldn't go to events. So what do? I lock in a Zoom conference call, and then we have big screens throughout the field that people could
Nice.
watch, and I do conference. And I was actually sitting there taking messages off of social media. Mike actually was sending me texts. So people were asking questions out in the field that I'm able to relate to the Chevrolet team, where we have, you know, Taj, the chief engineer of Corvette, and that type of stuff, where they're able to answer. And, you know, we did everything in our might to make it work. And I think we did a great job. And I'm sure you guys have applied very similar things. So it's next year, we're just going to try and make it better and safer for everybody. So that's our goal.
And I would say that as we work on health safety plans for 2021 and marketing and planning events, I think what you're going to see, at least on our end, is some hybrid of what was normal from 2019 with what's now accepted coming out of 2020.
Totally.
And we'll mix those things together, and
Totally.
that's what 2021 will give you.
Exactly. John, I'm kind of interested in your perspective on this too, again, because you held your event at the end of the year. And so you guys have been able to kind of incorporate the things that you've been seeing. What are there going to be changes, do you think, or you just kind of have to kind of wait and see how California itself I mean, you guys are going to be in a holding pen for a while.
That new normal, right? I mean,
Yeah.
You have to figure out what that balance is. And so, you know, our events are people events, and the people come to see other people. And so, you know, how do you do that? You have to balance the vendor, and you have to balance the car participant and the spectator who just wants to see those guys and gals. So it's yeah, I mean, it's something that we were hoping, and by moving our events, that a vaccine would be up, that consumer confidence would be up, and that we're good to go. But you know, we just found out this news about Disneyland and their potential reopening not happening until June of next year. It's probably going to delay us again. So
yeah,
we're holding tight, and we're still accepting applications right now. There's a lot of people interested. You know, the SEMA show didn't happen, so you know we've got a lot of new cars that are ready to be seen, and people want to see them. So we're just being patient right now.
Well, and I know you guys are planning a big anniversary in upcoming too, so you're sort of planning a whole bunch of stuff simultaneously, like parallel tracks of, because I know in January that you guys were talking about the programming for that, which is further in the future, but
right, the 75th anniversary is in a few years, so we're excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Al, I want to open the floor to you for part of this discussion before we start talking about the actual enthusiast aspect, the fun stuff about car shows. So any thoughts on any of this?
Yeah, listening to Rob and listening to the guys from Carlisle, when I run Thunder Valley at Dead Man's Curve, and Rob has seen it in person, it's literally thousands of people waiting for us to start our funny cars and dragsters for charity. Going into next year, it's going to have to change, because we're going to have to figure another way where to put 25 cars, and I can't have all these people on top of each other. So, they want to come, they want to see something different. It was proven when we started Thunder Alley about 5 years ago, when we brought the Frantic forward and I think 2 other cars. And if we would have had the event this year, we would have had 25 cars there. And these are, traditional race cars. These are nostalgia cars, guys that race. They want to come to our event. They want to be there. They want to raise money for charity. They have a great time. Fans love it. I mean, people literally sit on the steps waiting for us to start the cars at traditional times that we do to raise money for charity. So again, we have to figure out something different. I'm going to tip the hat a little bit next year, and Rob went to Dead Man's Curve at the Sheridan. We're going to bring back a jet car next year, where we're going to bring back a jet vehicle that probably no one else has seen in the country, something different. So need to spice up every year on what the people want to see. I've noticed going to car shows, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania this year, I've never seen so many new cars, new builds, where people have been working on for 3, 4, 5 years. They never had a chance to get anything done, but since they've been home with the car, they had the extra money, they had a little of this, they had a little of that. These cars are coming out of the woodwork.
That's so fun. And that's such a good segue into what I want to talk about, which is like, what are we going to see, right? Like, what do we anticipate? And part of this is fueled by the, a couple of years ago, Good Guys moved their entrance point for the year, right? And I think that just kind of represented a change in the industry, that all of us had to readjust our concept of classic. I feel like for some people that may have been more shocking than others. Some of us are older, but what are we going to see? Like, what is it going to be? More new builds? Is it going to be more classics? Is it is it going to be all Buicks, right? Buicks certainly were the car that was getting modded a couple of years ago. Like, what are some projections that you guys have about the kind of things we're going to see? And feel free to speculate wildly, because that's my favorite part.
Yeah, I mean, we've been hearing from a lot of people, like I said, we've been in contact with a lot of our people, even though, we weren't able to hold the show this year. And a lot of people are saying that, they're just what Al's saying. They've been quarantined. So they've been working on their vehicles. They have a little extra time. They have a little extra money. So they've been working feverishly on their cars. So there's a lot of people that are really excited about either getting the new build out on the road next year, or they've had some major changes they've been wanting to do to their car. They just haven't had the time or the money. Now they've had both time and money. So we're hearing that from a lot of people. They're really excited. We're in contact with a lot of our vendors, and fortunately it's good to hear that a lot of the manufacturers are still very busy just because of that, because people are buying parts to do the work on their cars. So that's very encouraging. Obviously, it was disappointing that we didn't get to go to SEMA this year, but we understand that, and to check in with everybody. But no, I think there's going to be a lot of new vehicles rolling out next year, and there's going to be a lot of people that are maybe with renewed enthusiasm because they're able to do the big projects on their cars that they've wanted to do and really kind of change up the car. So I think there's going to be some renewed enthusiasm going into the show season next year if we're able to do it. Hopefully we will. And, I've been talking to car builders as well, and car designers, and they're all saying the same thing. We have a good relationship with Murray Paff of Paff Designs, who designs cars. He says he's busier than he's ever been before. It's all he does is design. He doesn't build cars. He just designs cars. He says he's been busier than he's ever been before. So that's very encouraging as well. And you hear from the spectators as well. They missed all the car shows this year. They're excited to get back into it next year, and see all their friends that they didn't see this year. So if things if this whole COVID thing works out and we're able to start doing events again next year, I'm optimistic that I think it'll be a little different, but I think the enthusiasm will be even higher for next year. That's just my opinion.
Totally. John, any thoughts on that? You guys are in a unique
position.
I
hope so.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think in talking to builders like Roy Brizio and Chip Booth and some of the bigger names out here in California, they're busy. They're very busy, which is great. And I agree. I think there's I was talking to Steve Stanford the other day. He's busy. They're drawing cars, and that means future builds 2, 3, 4 years from now to be complete. Things take time in the process, but it's good to see that they're still rolling, and like Rob said, that the vendors are doing well as well. They're plugging away. So they're cautious. O'Reilly's is our title sponsor, and they were we sent an invoice we have a contract with them, of course, and we sent them an invoice so that we had some money and get ready for the shows. And they kind of choked a little bit and said, hey, can we wait and make sure that we're going to have a show before we do that? And we're going to work with them. They're great people, good sponsor. But other than that, people are optimistically cautious, as you can imagine. But I think it's going to be a good year, hopefully.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think the excitement and the anticipation, and we saw it, even though we had to transition some of our events to other dates, we still ran 90+% of our schedule this year. And we had so many first timers that came to our shows, and that, Lance mentioned the truck show. And I would agree, yes, it was uncomfortably normal that particular weekend. But there was a large turnout of first time people that came to the truck show. And we can only imagine it was because there aren't other options. There weren't a lot of other automotive based options for folks, and our vendors that got to be part of the swap meet all year long. These are people that generally would travel the country to the different shows, and they didn't have that traveling path to take. So they stayed with us. We worked with them to, camp at the grounds or leave their vending space set up between show to show. So there was a lot of excitement this past year, and I can only imagine. We always talk about the January show that we do, Automania, and how it's the first opportunity for people to really get out and do some things. Well, just imagine for all of these automotive companies,
Right.
you start to have events next year. People have been chomping at the bit all through the country to get out to a car show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It puts in mind for me too, though, the enthusiast and community nature of the car show, right? We mentioned like this is a chance for people to come out and see their friends. There is such a specific communal nature to these events, and not just people like looking for something to do, but like that shared hobby and enthusiasm is such an important thing for people. And we've tried to recreate it to a certain extent virtually, which I think is challenging. Like, not only is there a different comfort level or an interest level in it, but there's definitely something visceral about wanting to go out and like be with your friends and see things in person and talk about the car you had when you were 16 with your buddy in person. I think that the eagerness to get back to the shows is definitely palpable, right? I see that with our photographers who send this stuff in, with folks who are really disappointed about SEMA, which we all are, right? The whole industry. It's such a moment in the industry every year, like whether it is a huge part of your cycle or not, it is something that it marks time, right? Like, what is the future of the aftermarket going to look like, and thus the rest of the vehicles? I don't know if you guys had done anything virtual, whether there were, as Lance, you said that you had done the Zoom. That's super innovative. I think that's really clever. Do you guys think there's going to be a need for that kind of stuff going forward? I think I look at this specifically because like SEMA is pivoting to an online event. It's going to be a very different event. And even as a journalist, I'm not really sure what to expect. There's been a lot of, this is going to be great, but not a lot of specifics, right? And we'll know in a week. So to see what that's like. But do you guys feel the pressure to have parallel programming for something virtual, to open this experience up to more people who couldn't actually show up, or to do a pay-per-view? Again, some of this is taken from racing, which is just a different experience, but also like they're streaming things, they're doing that. Are you guys thinking of that, or is that just not, you don't need to yet?
Yeah, I mean, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we've already been doing that a little bit. We've had some, interviewing some guests on podcast that, or Facebook Live, actually. I wouldn't call it a podcast. Facebook Live, that seems to be the format for our demographic.
Yeah.
And, we get some people watching. It's about all we can do at this point. So
right.
We're just trying to stay in touch with people and let them know that, they're still important to us, obviously, and to let them know that, we're still here. There's rumor mills floating all over the place that, all the car shows are canceling left and right. They're going under, they're being bought out, and all this stuff. I'm sure you guys run across a rumor, get dragged through the rumor mill just like we do. So yeah, it's just a way to stay in contact with people. And I think it makes sense to do that. And I see us continuing that. To what level, I'm not quite sure. Because it's, to do it right, it takes a little bit. There's some logistical challenges. You got to have staffing, and to make it look right and look presentable. You don't want to look like you're in your parents' garage or something like that. It should be, people expect a certain level of production and things like that. So I think we do a pretty good job at that. Lining up the guests and things like that. But I don't see that going away. Again, I don't know what level we're going to continue that at. But it's a great way for us, since we only do one event a year, compared to like the guys that do the Carlisle events. Since we only do one event a year, it's kind of, we're relevant for a couple months and then we're dark. So in the past, it's kind of the cycle, right? So this is a great way for us to stay connected with everybody and give them connection. It's great when they send you comments and questions and things like that. So it's good to interact with people. And like you said, the community, my dad told me years ago, he says, Rob, the cars are the backdrop, but people come back every year for the people.
Yes.
That the cars are always the backdrop, and it's a great reason to get together, but people come back for the people, the connections they make, the friends they have, the people they only see once a year. There's, we have 8,000 cars, and there's 8,000 stories that go along with each car, so that's really what people are missing. And that's pretty much impossible to duplicate online. So you'll never
Yeah.
replace it. But it's just a fix for now until we get kind of back to our whatever that new normal is. I hate that term new normal, but
Yeah.
whatever the normal is. So.
Totally. Lance, what were you going to say?
And I totally agree with you, Rob. It's just an interesting time. And like you said, I can't stand that terminology, the new normal, because quite frankly, this is not normal. And I think I'll agree to that. I'm just ready to move forward and, put this all behind us. And I do believe, as everybody had mentioned, I think we all agree that the future is bright. And I can tell you one thing, we struggled throughout this entire season. And then during our fall show, we really felt good. It almost felt normal again. And it felt so good to our entire team because of the fact, each show we put forth that 110% that each promoter does. And you put all that time and energy into it. And then boom, you just don't have people show up due to the fact that it's a pandemic.
Right.
We all understand rain as much as it hurts. Whatever the weather may be, snow, gosh, we've had that too. That's painful, but reality is, pandemic, none of us have been through this ever. And it's frustrating. And I, for one, just can't wait for it to be behind us, move forward, get everybody together, enjoy the camaraderie.
Right.
During Fall Carlisle, I hung out with some friends over at their RV, and there was about, I don't know, I'm going to say 30 to 50 people in a big circle. And we just had a lot of fun. Everybody had their guard down. They just had a great evening. And, that was that normalcy that we all love and really strive to achieve. And that's why we put on these events, to bring everybody together and have fun.
Yeah.
So for me, that was just awesome. I had such a great time. So just wanted to extend that out there.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. And I think, going forward, people won't take that for granted anymore. Being able to get together, just sitting around a campfire at a car show. I don't think people will take that for granted anymore. And I think people will appreciate it a lot more.
Agreed.
Well, and for us, the limitations on people even being able to come to the show, to kind of echo what Rob said, people won't take that for granted. And I've made a point anywhere I can to shout out our Canadian enthusiasts that come to Carlisle and the international folks. I mean, at the Corvette show, there was a lot of pieces missing this year, but maybe none more noticeable than on our North Hill, where the big Canadian group comes and hangs out, and they put up the maple leaf, and they hang out and they drink their Molson and their Labatt's, and they say the things they say and do the things they do, and they bring that flavor from up north to Carlisle, and we really missed that this year. And for all the European folks and the South American folks that come to the spring and fall shows, it was different, and that's another normal that I know I'm looking forward to again, is having everyone back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mike, did they limit your attendance?
We were limited to, geez, Lance, I tried to put it in my memory banks at this point. We were at 20%, 50%. I forget already.
Well, it all depends because it changed throughout the season. They kept they changed the goalpost how many times on everybody on the Zoom call. So it changed every week for us, and it was very frustrating. There were times they'd pull it back, and quite frankly, when we worked with the governor behind closed doors, we were sworn to secrecy, and everything has to be confidential. So that's what we abided to the whole time.
Gotcha.
We just tried to do.
Did you guys hear about the Off-Road Expo?
I'm sorry?
Did you guys hear about the Off-Road Expo in Arizona?
No, what happened?
They were they're probably the third largest event at my facility, the Fairplex in Pomona. They're an October event, and it's Jeeps, off-road vehicles, anything four wheels, and it's a great market, great show. But California kind of chased them out, so they decided to move it to Arizona, to where Barrett Jackson holds their event in Scottsdale, and they ton of money in advertising, because obviously with a new event, new location, you got to do that. They opened the doors at 9 a.m. They had an amazing flow. There was some construction going on the freeway, so there was a lot of people that were pissed. It took them a couple hours to park, but at noon, they got the phone call from the governor's office that they had to shut down. And by 2 o'clock, they had to have everyone out of there.
Oh my
And
God.
my heart just goes out to them. You think about the money they spent on advertising. You think about all those vendors are already set up and doing their thing, and their vehicles. Their displays are absolutely amazing. Whether it's setting up big, huge boulders that they crawl over, or fake grass, whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, it's just what a nightmare. So I didn't know if you guys had experienced anything like that.
We did, John, and we were fortunate to fall on the other side of that fence. We had our hurdles and our obstacles. There were some legal doings, but as Lance said, there was an agreement in place that allowed us to do business, and that's kind of where that conversation has to end. There were restrictions on attendance this year, but again, we made it work within the parameters, within the little playpen we were told to stay in. We made it work.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good, congratulations.
Yeah. We didn't have any flexibility up here in New York. It is pretty finite what our guidelines were, and we weren't just not able to do it.
So the interesting thing, and I'll go back because I know my signal had dropped out earlier, and I actually have to roll here in like 4 minutes, guys. I have another call coming up at 4:30. But the one thing that I think really stood out against us early in the year was the grandiose marketing data that we always use. And Rob, you may use it too, touting the amount of cars that you get or the attendance and things like that. And I think that was the flare shot up in the air that, some people that have no idea what we do or had never been at the event see 100,000 people, 8,000 vending spaces, international spectacular. And that all of a sudden was that red flag, like, hey, wait a minute. So my opinion in some ways, and it was bad timing, but I think we fell victim to some of our own marketing tools in the nature of what we push out. So, it might be worth thinking about going forward as to how we promote and market events as well.
Yeah. Same with me. The biggest factor for my event was, we draw cars from 34 different states and 6 Canadian provinces. That's right in our marketing materials. So obviously everybody saw it. So they say, nope, you're not doing it. So yeah, that was the biggest, I think, contributing factor is the amount of people that come in from outside the area. But that's the best part of it as well. That's the best part of it because we get such a diverse amount of cars and people, and it does so much for the community. I've been talking to, obviously we deal a lot with the restaurants and bars and hotels and stuff in the area. It's their busiest week of the year, and it just devastated the whole community when we weren't able to have the Circus Nationals this year. It affected people down the line that I didn't even think of before, but it really did. It affected, and I'm sure it's the same with, out in California, there's so many people connected to it's not just the staff and the people running the event, it's everybody else that supports them, hotels, restaurants, bars, shopping, everything else that's affected by this as well. I mean, even the county executive here in our county here said, brought us up and said, without the Nationals, our tax base has suffered this year because of the sales tax and room occupancy tax. So it's far more reaching than just the little, event, but an event at the fairgrounds.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Have you guys had any issues with the fairgrounds themselves? I've got 2 different vast moving systems. I've got Pomona, which is surviving on COVID testing, and they have a hotel, and they've supplied that for nurses and first responders right now, and they're doing okay. But Cal Expo is a state-run facility, and there was no fair this year, and they're hurting, and I'm concerned that they might not be around next year.
Yeah, our facility is a New York State run facility, so they're in the same boat. There has been no events since I think the first week in March, and there won't be any events at all for the rest of the year on that facility. Now it's a state run facility. I couldn't speak to whether they're in trouble or not. I don't know. I imagine that they're hurting. They weren't able to hold the state fair, and I think they said that's worth like $40 million a year to them or something like that. So, and they were expanding it this year too. They're going from 13 days to 18 days.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks.
Take care, Mike.
See you guys. Thanks.
See you, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
So yeah, I couldn't speak to, I hope they're going to be okay. But you know,
Right.
everybody's budget shot though too. You know, the New York State, everybody, you know, just flip on the news, and it's not, you know, it's everybody knows the New York State budget is shot, and I think a lot of budgets are shot, and you know that's what drives the fairgrounds. So, but at the same time, you know, my event, and I do a couple other smaller events there. I do like an indoor motocross race and some other things. Those events bring money into the fairgrounds. So hopefully they'll work with us and, you know, realize that we're going to bring money back into the fairgrounds and revitalize it. So hopefully, you know, they'll be able to work with us next year and stay alive. And I know they've cut back their staff. They've made, you know, but they've also taken the time to do some improvements to the fairgrounds, which we're, you know, pretty excited about.
That's
So
nice.
yeah. So I think we'll be okay, but you just never know.
Well, I wanted to wrap this up by posing to all of you guys a question that's a little outside just the traditional car show, but going back to the sense of community, right? One of the things that I feel like is always a discussion point is how to bring new people into the enthusiast communities. I think the car show is such a natural way, right? Like you could often go to a car show and be like, oh, this is amazing, right? Like, oh, I didn't think about this aspect of the hobby, right? Or I can just go to the car show and this is such a cool thing, or this era of vehicle, oh, I'm super into that. How do we support and encourage young enthusiasts, new enthusiasts? How do we continue to support them in addition to the car shows? All of you guys have been in this industry for a long time. Enthusiasts are your bread and butter. How do we continue to foster and support that?
Well,
I think you have to
go ahead, John.
Rob. I think you have to address what their interests are and wrap your arms around it. You know, whether that's an import car or, you know, we're doing a huge room this year on VWs, and you know, there's a resurgence in California right now. There's a resurgence of 80s VWs. So, you know, we're gonna ride that, and we've got over 113 of them invited and coming, and everything that's air cooled will be there. So it's pretty exciting. But you know, you have to constantly be thinking of those things, right, Rob? I mean, you're always trying to get the biggest vest or whatever it is to attract that younger audience. And you know, I think there's a lot of shows out there that can, you know, bring a Spider-Man or a SpongeBob to the show, but I don't think that's, at least my opinion, that's not the magical trick to attract young families into a car show. I think we just need to listen and study of what they're into and address our events accordingly. Yeah,
I agree 100%. And you know, again, to fall back to my dad, when he started it, you know, he realized he went to car shows, he built street rods, he'd been to car shows for 20 years before he started doing this. And he goes, Rob, I'm tired of just kind of going to car shows and putting out my lawn chair and just kind of sitting around. I want to do some stuff. So that's why he started, you know, kind of what we call as events within the event. And like you were saying, Lance, you know, the high-low competition, the monster truck stuff, that's what I think is going to keep car shows relevant, is to, you know, because that'll bring the marginal fans in, right? That's where the masses are, the marginal fans. Well, if we do a good job, we put on a good event, a good core event, we'll get the car enthusiasts. But I think if we, you know, like John just said, we listen to and we pay attention to the trends. That's why SEMA is great, because we can see the trends there. We pay attention to what is going on around us and incorporating that some way into the event without losing the core of the event. You know, you can never alienate your core audience. You just can't. That's just suicide. But by adding little things here and there to get maybe somebody that's thinks cars are cool, but they've never been to a car show, but they have the high-low competition or the monster trucks. Hey, I'm going to go check the show out. And then now they're exposed to the hobby, right? They're exposed to the industry, and it's a little easier to get them in to say, oh yeah, I'd like to build that. Oh, I can build that truck, or I can build that Camaro or something like that. So I think it's, you know, just what John said, you know, keeping our finger on the pulse of what's going on and adapting without losing our core values.
Alan, Lance, thoughts?
Really
sorry, John.
No, it's okay. No, I was going to say Rob does a great job. Actually, his events on my bucket list. I want to go to Artie's party. I want to see a bunch of cool pinstripers. You know, I mean, it's something that they've been doing there for a long time. That the word's out there, and the quality of the art, the pinstriping, the things that he's got going on at his event are incredible. So, you know, hats off to you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And Al, I mean, he approached us last year. We've had the Frantic Ford outside of Artie's party a number of years. You know, when we fire that thing up, it just draws the people in, and what we use it for is to kind of draw attention to Artie's party, so people go in. But you know, we kind of expanded on that. Al had an idea to, you know, we're gonna kind of work with Al and the guys down at Dead Man's Curve. We're gonna incorporate, you know, the cars, the vintage drag cars in. We haven't had that at our show before, but it's hugely popular. And it doesn't matter whether you're 5 years old or 60 years old. It's pretty awesome. I mean, I experienced it for first time at Dead Man's Curve a couple years ago, and I was just blown away. So now we're going to incorporate something like that into our event too.
Lance, thoughts from you.
I'm all about trying to get the younger gen, and I know every single one of us are. You know, we do have a kids area. We have model car competitions. We have they can do drawing competitions, coloring competitions, that type of stuff. And then we make a big deal about it on the stage. And of course, everybody loves that feeling, because, you know, what we want to do is ultimately make them love cars just like we do. So, you know, I don't know what that takes, but, you know, it's funny. My dad passed away in 2004, and, you know, he always ran the Corvette show, you know, and that was his baby. He absolutely loved it. In 2005, I added a Burnout Competition to the show, which you can only imagine. Many of the hardcore Corvette enthusiasts, such as
Like, no.
Yeah. It was a total no-no. And it was funny. I had a guy come up to me and literally essentially yelling at me for doing this. And I'm like, you know what? We need to progressively go a different direction. We need to get the younger gen involved. I said, how do you expect them to love it? Do you want them to bring a lawn chair and sit next to the car? You know, no disrespect, but quite frankly, they like the excitement. And that's what got me energized about the hobby when I was a kid. My dad took me to Bloomington Gold. And, you know, that was another Corvette show. And I sat there, and they used to do burnouts in the parking lot. I love that aspect of it. And I enjoyed going back. And I realized most of the guys were drinking, having fun, and it was awesome. I was a part of that energy. So what we wanted to do was do that at Carlisle. And if one kid would come up to me and be excited about it, I'm thrilled. And the ironic thing is, after the very first year, I had this little boy come up to me, and he was jumping up and down. He was like this the whole time. And he's like, that was so awesome. And it just made my day. And right there, I knew that little boy was going to be into cars forever because of that instance of hosting a burnout competition. It's something that's so remedial, but it's something he'll remember for the rest of his life. And that's awesome. We're fortunate to be able to do that. And I think we all feed off of one another. You know, if there's a good idea, we take it and we run, and maybe we'll make it a little better for our area, whatever it might be. You know, I commend Armo for taking a kid to the car show. That's a wonderful thing that they've done. Obviously, we're all behind that. 12 and under being free coming into our show, that's important. You know, you want to entice them to come out. And for us, we're willing to do just about anything. I'd love to hear ideas if anybody has them on here, or if people are watching and want to, you know, provide ideas. We're all about it. We have to listen to our customers.
My 4-year-old likes to see things crash, so he'll just watch. I'll put on dirt track racing crashes, because they're mini compilations. He'll just watch that. So if anyone wants to, you know, set up a dirt track in the back, let them crash a bunch. Yeah.
Before they tore down the 1 mile dirt oval at the fairgrounds where we are, we used to have demolition derbies and truck pulls. And we had a stunt team, like a Joey Chitwood stunt team, come in, and all sorts of lawnmower races, all sorts of snowmobile. We did snowmobile and grass drags one year on there. People love that sort of stuff. We're not able to do it anymore because they took down the grandstand and removed the track. But you're right, though, Lance. People love that sort of stuff. And it's been a little bit of a challenge for us to kind of try to reinvent that, to try to figure that out with the new layout of the fairgrounds. It's really not too conducive for doing anything with movement anymore. But we're slowly adapting, and, you know, we're bringing stuff in like what Al's doing with Nitro Row and things like that. So we're getting there.
Al, I'm going to throw the final aspect of that question to you.
Okay, thanks. Well, again, Rob brought up a good point. John Buck, always good seeing you. When I first started to go to John shows years ago, I saw the variety of things that they did at the show. Me being around drag racing 45 years and those cars that are out there, I was familiar with, and what he has with the dragsters firing up and stuff like that. We're seeing it more, like I said, Rob mentioned, back in New Jersey with Dead Man's Curve Show, where people are coming to the event. Some of them don't even care about the car show. They want to come to see the funny cars, the dragsters, the names, the body styles, what they grew up with. And then afterwards, they see the cars and they say, wow, I used to go to a local cruise night and I saw this 57 Chevy, or I saw the 63 Nova there. This is what, and bringing these people back into the market, and also bringing like their grandkids, their friends that have cars in their garage that never come out in years. So we see that insurgence of people coming to the show and seeing something different.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And again, I just want to give a shout out to the Grand National Show because it's the show I'm most familiar with, and that it's such a good representation of all the stuff you guys have been talking about. There are different themes in every pavilion. There's always a new exhibit that has a specific theme. I think the connection to the Wally Parks Museum there is a nice fit as well. The way that you incorporate the vendors and media and doing some of the judging and the end of the show awards, and like I just think it's such a good representation of also, like, particularly for Southern California, putting together, like, you've got the lowriders, and you've got I don't know why I'm blanking on the building, but building 6.
Are you talking about the traditional rod and custom guys?
The rod and custom guys, and then the sort of pin up and rockabilly area, and the pinup show, which we always sponsor every year. So shout out to Mitzi and to Rod Shows for all of that. But I think all of the shows that we're talking about, that variety is super important too, because it also represents the enthusiasts, right? I think that's one of the things that is very meaningful to me, is like, how do you also not just represent it, not just expand it to younger people and kids and young enthusiasts, but how do you open it up to a diverse group, right? How do you include more women, more people of color, people who have traditionally not been in the car enthusiast space because it hasn't been as welcoming a space. I think it's definitely opening up. I think that people are doing more and more to make it a welcoming space, but I think there's a lot to be said for having that type of representation. And when people are able to bring in different cars and they can be excited about different aspects and different parts of the show, you bring more people in. And I think that diversity of experiences are always going to make for a better crowd and for a better show. I think all of you guys do that to a certain extent, and I think it's great to see. That is my final question, but if there's anything else you guys would like to talk about on that topic, or just like mention for the sort of future of the car show, obviously fingers crossed for all of you that events start to get back to normal in this fall. If I'm not actually sure if Carlisle is running anything. Al, I'm sure you've got something going on because you always got something going on. But for 2021, again, fingers crossed that things are somewhat back to normal, and you can bring the audiences back. But anything else you guys would like to end with?
Hey, a quick point. Rob brought it up before about the builders. I'm in tune with a lot of builders every day. Either they do ads with us on Racing Junk, and I'm talking to guys that have never been this busy in their life.
That's
ever.
Great.
This pandemic has driven them over the top, which is great. Some of these guys are out 2 years, 3 years, 5 years worth of work, and they're getting the day-to-day work come in where a guy says, my car's been in my garage for 6 months, it's been there for 2 years, I have some money, I want to get it done. So this is going to bring out the new cars, I think, that I mentioned before, that we haven't seen in years.
That's
like
so
I mentioned,
exciting.
I've never seen a lot of these cars in my area, literally 25 miles from my house. So I hope this insurgent will bring more people out to take cars out of the garage, get their young kids involved. A good point today was a friend of mine on Facebook. His 2 sons are restoring his 64 Corvette. They're busy sanding on the car. You don't see this that much. This is what we need to bring. We need to bring the kids into the hobby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%. Yep, 100%. And to your point out, like you said, the builders have never been busier. We've already been contacted. We do the Winfield Award every year. It's geared towards high-end cars, obviously, with 3 major modifications. We've already been contacted by a number of people saying, "Hey, I just want to give you a heads up. I'll be submitting my car this year because it will be done finally." And I'm sure you guys hear this too. You talk to a builder, they love events, but they hate us at the same time because that's everybody's deadline.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
they love us because people want cars built for the event, but they hate us because it's always their deadline.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much. I so appreciate your time. I will let you know when this is going to air for our show. I have it scheduled right now for Friday because I think it's a fun way to wrap up the event for our enthusiasts. But again, thank you for your time. And again, looking forward to your events next year.